Hi guys, my name's Dan Cooper, welcome back to the YouTube channel. In today's video we're asking the question, does Halifax need a stadium? The answer is yes, but like anything else, it's not that simple. So like any big question like that, you know, whether you should buy a train, whether you should buy a stadium, or whether the city should get a new airport, it's really easy to say yes, no. But I want to go a little bit deeper than that because, you know, there's definitely benefits to us getting a stadium, but there's obviously cons to it as well. So I am literally going to do that. I'm going to pro and con. So let's start with the pros. We recently just hosted the World Juniors here, and I was lucky to go to some of the games. The atmosphere here was incredible, the city was buzzing, and when I saw people coming out of the arena that were from different countries, they all kind of the same kind of vibe. They were all kind of talking about how they'd never been to Halifax before and what a great city and what a great time they were having. And I feel like if we had a stadium, it would just be another great reason for people to come and see what an amazing city that we have. And I think there's a lot of benefits to that. I mean, if you look at a lot of the big cities and the cities that you think about in the world, they all have stadiums that they can be used for different events, and I do think that something like that is needed in the Maritimes, and if it's coming to the Maritimes, why not Halifax? With a big stadium typically would come a big franchise. I would say if you asked anyone on the street if this was Moosehead country, they'd all say yes, because the Mooseheads are right there. And we have the Thunderbirds now, and I mean, I'm a football guy or a soccer person, as you say, in North America, and the Wanderers and the way people have adapted them has been incredible. And I just think that, you know, we are a city that feels like it's ready for an NHL team or a CFL team or, you know, an MLS team, and I think that's something that, again, a city like us would definitely get behind a big franchise like that. I also think it'd be a good boost for tourism, because I know that when I was in England I used to go and watch the football teams play, whether it was going down to Wembley, that was a day trip. We'd go there and we'd spend the day down in London, and I just think about, you know, a lot of my friends who travel to watch the Maple Leafs, and, you know, maybe they don't have the best time watching the Maple Leafs because they don't always play that well, but they go, they have a great time in Toronto, they watch the game and they come back, you know, but meanwhile they've stayed in hotels, they've gone to restaurants, they've shopped. And I think having an anchor here that would bring events is going to only boost the businesses around it. And the last thing would be a stadium that offers you more than just a place for sporting venues. You could do concerts there, you could do conferences there, you could have general events there, and I think there's a lot of flexibility to a stadium that doesn't necessarily just mean you play hockey there or you play football. So I think it's another string to our bow as a city, and it's another thing that we can have that would, again, boost the level of events we could bring through here, and again, help boost the economy in another way. So like I said at the start of this video, this isn't really a yes or no question. There's a lot more things to consider, and with the cons you're going to see they kind of mirror the pros in a certain way, and that's why I think this is such an interesting thing to be talking about. So the biggest con is obviously cost. Stadiums are not cheap, and the question is always going to be who's going to pay for it, and if they're paying for it, what does that mean? Because if you have an outside corporation or a franchise coming and they build the stadium, do they own the stadium? Now, do they control who can use it? And then you've got all these other questions about how that financing has worked out and what is the knock-on effect for A, the project, and B, the city as a whole. Having an overpriced stadium could be a massive financial burden to the city. Having an underpriced stadium, it means that we might not have a stadium that can host the events or even attract franchises here. So then you've built a stadium that doesn't serve the purposes that you need. Second big issue for me is location. Like I said a few weeks ago, once you're on the peninsula, it's quite an easy place to get around. If you're coming off the peninsula, it's more challenging. I'm struggling to think of an area on the peninsula you could put a stadium. I'm also struggling to think of an area you could put a stadium that's off the peninsula. And then if you can think of a few, it's like, does it make sense for a stadium to be there? What would the impact around that stadium be? What would the transit be like? And again, how does that serve the best amount of people that it possibly can? And that's one of the biggest issues for me with a stadium, is just where do you put it? Third one would be impact to businesses. Now I know I said in the pros that I thought a stadium would be good for businesses. However, if any of you remember who were living here when they built the World Trade Center, is that affected so many businesses around it, and a lot of them were struggling to stay open because you can't just build something that big in such a short period of time. So any businesses that are like adjacent to the site would be negatively affected. You know, if you're building roads and infrastructure, what about the people and the houses around that? Like, that's going to affect them too. So, you know, there's an economical impact, but in most cases, if there's businesses adjacent, they're going to struggle and they're going to feel a negative effect before they get the positive. And that's why something like this does need a lot of thought, because you don't want to lose businesses, because when it's built, how are they getting the benefit? The final con for me would be, do we need a stadium right now? For me, there are a lot more things that need to be addressed in the city first before you can bring in a stadium. Affordable housing is something that I think needs to be addressed quite quickly. Access to medical care facilities, so more hospitals, more places where people can go and see doctors. Transit, the ability for people to get around the city more easily. All of those things should be coming first before you bring a stadium in. So while yes, I think Halifax should get a stadium, it's not a simple yes, do it now. It's more of a, when we have everything in place, we should get it then. And I think we are a city that is desperately ready to have a franchise and to probably have a stadium, but we're also a city that needs transit, affordable housing, more easy access or burden taken off the hospitals that we have downtown. Some of them need rebuilding. So there's a lot of things that have to come before the stadium would arrive. We have to look at ways the city can continue to grow smoothly and easily so everyone can prosper. And I think whenever it comes to making a big money purchase like a stadium, the question that people have to ask is, does this benefit the largest amount of people? And I think there's things up that line that would benefit more people, and they should be the priority. So while this may seem like a bit of a contradiction, I think we have to stop looking at things as black and white and realize that for me, yeah, 100% I think a stadium would be amazing here, after we've addressed some of the things that would also make this city even better than it already is now. Thank you for watching this week's video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And if you have any questions about Halifax, please let me know in the comments below. I'll see you next week.